Well, tens of thousands of determined runners are in New York this morning, and by this time tomorrow, they will be racing in the New York City Marathon.
Among them will be a Staten Island mother who was set to run last year until Superstorm Sandy hit, and her life was turned upside down. Lee Woodruff is here with her story. Lee, good morning.
Good morning, Anthony. Tomorrow, Staten Island is going to be rooting for Jen Correa, as she represents in many ways the triumph of New Yorkers over the devastation a year ago. It's 6 a.m., and Jen Correa is heading out for a run, one of her last workouts before racing in this weekend's New York City Marathon.
I love you.
This past year has been the do-over for me. All I need to do is get to that finish line, and it's the start of a new life.
Correa and her family were living on this street in Staten Island, directly in the path of Superstorm Sandy. She evacuated safely with her children PJ and Alyssa, but her husband Peter stayed behind to help a neighbor. As a family, you're not strangers to having someone be in an uncertain situation. Your husband was a first responder after September 11th, and then he was in Iraq with the military.
If there's something that he can do to help, he's going to do it.
As the floodwaters rushed into their home, Peter became trapped. He left his wife a voicemail saying he loved her.
Never in my life has he ever made that type of goodbye phone call.
What went through your head?
I just assumed he was gone.
Peter narrowly escaped. He floated to safety using their kitchen table as a makeshift raft. But the storm surge destroyed their home and everything inside.
And the sand over here is where my house was.
Do you ever see yourself coming back here?
No.
Why?
The community's gone. What I had here doesn't exist. You can't recreate it. You know, no one else is coming back. It was great, it was beautiful. It was our home, but, you know, there has to come a point where you say goodbye.
Correa also said goodbye to her dream of running last year's New York City Marathon. Officials canceled the race less than 48 hours before its scheduled start, concentrating resources on storm relief instead. But that didn't slow Correa down. Just 2 months after the storm, she was back on her feet, running.
I love running. So if my struggle is to get through this distance, so be it.
The Correas stayed with friends until they could rent this apartment and start to slowly piece their lives back together. Peter recovered Jen's racing medals from the destruction. Friends, relatives, and complete strangers pitched in or made donations.
These are the people that I have to cross the finish line for, along with myself, my family, and all the other Sandy victims.
So what does running the marathon this year mean when you look back at all that you've come through?
That's your bedroom, right?
It means that it's over for me.
Yeah.
It means that I've won. You know, as a family, we've been strong, and that's how we've won as a family. But as an individual, for myself, I had to prove that I am strong enough to do it, that Sandy didn't take that away from me.
Proving that sometimes what really matters is not just crossing the finish line, but rather all the steps it took to get there. And for each mile Jen Correa runs tomorrow, she will draw inspiration from the names written on her arm of the people from her neighborhood who have been affected by Sandy.
I was surprised to see her and her son looking through that book of pictures of their demolished house. Do they go back to the house?
They do go back to the house. Jen will go back. She says she goes back by herself often, and she'll sometimes just sit in the car. And we went back together with the kids, and objects keep coming up sort of from the land. There was a picture frame sitting there, and she told me exactly what picture used to be in that frame.
Right. It's amazing how therapeutic something like that can be, as hard work as it is.
Yeah, this marathon for her is going to be finishing the year and running for those people who lost their lives.
Lee Woodruff, thank you so much.
Thank
Great
you.
story.